Hi guys, here we've got the new BMW M5. This one's on loan from Sytner Oldbury. Special thanks to Sytner Oldbury for lending me this for the bank holiday. My wife's not particularly happy about it, but me and my mates have had some good fun. I had the previous version of this, the F10, and I kept it for 12 months and then got rid of it because I thought I was going to kill myself. For me, personal preference is anything over 350 horsepower. I really want four-wheel drive. Now what the beauty is with this car is what BMW have done is they've actually made it four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive. You can flick it into two-wheel drive if you want to have a little bit more fun. I flicked it into two-wheel drive earlier and I was just going past the petrol station out towards Bromsgrove, and just past the Fox on the sharp left-hand bend. It's a tight bend. I gave a little bit of acceleration and the thing tried to spin round on me, so that settled the case for me. This car, 600 horsepower, really needs to be in four-wheel drive mode, unless you're a racing driver or you're used to tracking it and you know exactly what you're doing. I've got a 530D, same shape as this, and I'm quite happy with that as a day-to-day runner. As I say, I got rid of my previous one. One of the other reasons I got rid of it was because it was so hard. You had to think all the time. 560 brake, 40 less than this, but rear wheel drive, and every single time you took it out in the wet, or I got my mum in the car who's nearly 70, she just, you know, you pull out of a junction and the thing would think you wanted to play with it. Drive this car and it grumbles at you. You just feel yourself grumbling with it. Your belly goes, everything goes, and when you accelerate, and I find myself going, the sound is just amazing. I don't know whether or not they're pumping sound through the speakers. I've been trying to work it out. It sounds gorgeous. Listen. I'm not really a show off when it comes to wanting to drive past people with the stereo up and all that, but for your own pleasure, just that little it's horny as hell. It really is absolutely delicious. And of course, off with the start stop. You can't have start stop in a car like this. You just can't do it. It's like it's like a dementor sucking your soul out every time you stop, and then just when you think all's lost, putting that soul back in your mouth just as you pull off again. It's crap. But the smile on my face should just tell you all how much fun this car is to drive. This car is insane. Like, the 540 is quick, the 530 diesel is more than enough, but this car is just absolutely immense. If this car were an animal, a vet would have had to put it down. It's got that much torque, that much power. I just keep finding myself stuck behind the vehicle in front. It's a car that you'd love to get on the German Autobahn. If you could get this car over and round the ring, I reckon you could do some really impressive stuff. BMW actually do what they call a rink taxi, and I don't know how much it is now because we did it quite a few years ago, but you can pay around about, I think it might be like sort of 180, 200 euros a person, and a professional driver will take you around the track. I've jumped out of aeroplanes, and I can tell you now that going around that track with a professional driver is the most adrenaline I have ever experienced in my life. You go through the gate goes up, you put your token in, bang, off you go. You you're going for about 600-700 yards. This is all from memory. You come to a left-hand bend, the guy's accelerating, he's doing like 90, 100, 110. Your brain's saying to you, slow down, we're not going to make it, slow down. Then all of a sudden he whips his car around this left-hand bend. You've never seen anything like it. The way this car goes around this left-hand bend, it defies the law of physics, gravity, you name it. It's absolutely insane. I wish I could drive like that, but I can't. Hence I like my four-wheel drive on anything over 350 brake. This car gives it you all. You've got two-wheel drive, you've got four-wheel drive, you've got four-wheel drive sport, which drops a little bit of the traction back. You can have the throttle response efficient. Yeah, right. You can have the throttle response on sport, you can have the throttle response on sport plus. You can do the same with the chassis. You can have it in comfort mode, you can have it in sport, you can have it in sport plus. Same with the steering wheel, you can have it in comfort mode, nice and free and easy like it is now. You can have it in sport, you can have it in sport plus. You can change the responsiveness of the gear change, you can make it hold the gears for longer, you can make it change the gears like Miss Daisy. It does everything. So much control over it. You've got two buttons here. What you can do with M1 and M2 is you can pre-program your own combinations of all of those things. So M1 at the moment, when you double click it, is two-wheel drive with all the sports features blaring away. M2 is four-wheel drive with all the sports features blaring away. If I drop this into M2, two presses, one to initiate it, one to actually tell it you mean it, and you can hear the engine's changed, the responsiveness has changed, the gears are holding. Obviously I'm in traffic, so I can just drop those gears down so they're changing a little bit more like they should be. Loads of control. I drove this car last night back from Birmingham. I got a helium balloon round my foot. I was thinking like Miss Daisy, and I was pretending it was a month of Sunday afternoons, and I managed to get 23.2 to the gallon. Now that was towards where I live, which is sort of Bromsgrove way, out of Birmingham, so it was probably around about 20 miles, something like that. But I was really having to try to get that fuel economy. Real world terms, if you smash this car about a bit, you're going to get 12-13. If you drive this car sensibly, you're going to get what I got, 23. If you're giving this car a little bit of both, you're going to get around about 17-18. I'm now down to 16.5. That's this morning. I've got it on auto reset, so it lets you know on every journey what you've done for that journey. But again, we're stuck in traffic. That's the problem with this car. You always find yourself with a car in front. Not because you're necessarily being crazy, but this car covers ground really quickly. Whether or not I'd drive this car on a daily, I don't know, because I think you're going to be at the petrol station every 2 or 3 days. I filled it up when I had it on Friday. It's now Wednesday. I've done 230 miles in this car, and I've put around about £100 worth of fuel in. On a full tank it was showing 218 mile range. Appreciate most people who buy this car can afford that kind of fuel, but it still does your head in having to stand there at the petrol station filling the bloody thing up. That's the other problems with the roads in the UK. I was over in France a few months ago, and in France people drive properly. People keep to the left unless, or rather to the right in France, unless they need to overtake. But here people just pick a lane. Get out of the way, mate. 60 mile an hour road and the guy's doing 40 in my fast lane. Just bobbles along, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We're doing 70 mile an hour on a dual carriageway. You don't even realise you're doing it. You may as well be doing 30. It's just crept up to 75. box has just opened on its own. In comparison to my old F10, this car, when you want to drive it nice and sensible, it's a lot easier to do glove boxes open again. BMW, sort your glove box out. My 2004 Mercedes, made in South Africa, used to do that, boys. I think we've got it now. I am actually sad to be taking this car back. I've got to go back down Gloucester today, so back to 35 to the gallon for me in the 530 diesel, which is more than enough, but it just ain't this. When I was in France, I spotted a 540 diesel. Why they didn't do the 540 diesel, call it the 535 diesel, BMW, whatever you want to call it in this country, I don't know. I would have had the 540 diesel instead of the 530. Okay. Nice little left-hand bend here. Oh, and there's a car going at the same speed as the car it's overtaking. We need a campaign for English drivers to pull their finger out and sort it out. Come on, mate. 70 mile an hour road, doing 55 miles an hour, there's nothing. I'm not having road rage here, I just think that people should be driving better. People should be more aware of how to drive a road properly. We've only got 2 lanes on most of the motorways in France and Germany. They run 1,000 times better than our roads. Look at the detail on this seatbelt. I know I've mentioned it, but that sort of thing really turns me on. I just love it. I love that. I think that's awesome. And this is like the cockpit of a jet plane. And when you're moving, when you're accelerating, then that noise comes through when you've got your window down and you just hear those pipes. I've got a couple of night shots I'll drop in the bottom of the video, but this car, it's just, I was going to say it's electric, but that's not a really good, that's not a good analogy, is it? So how does it compare to the Tesla that I had? I had 3 Teslas. P85, another P85 all-wheel drive, and a P90 with Ludicrous. Great cars, build quality, absolute pants. Infotainment system, awesome, better than any other car I've been in. Little bit soulless. Like when you start this car, you feel like it's alive. It's got a personality, it talks to you. And the electric cars don't do that. I don't know how they're going to solve that. I don't know how Porsche and all the other sports supercars are going to get round it. You look at Porsche, I've got a 997 Turbo S. That 997 Turbo S is holding its money. In fact, if anything, since I bought it, it's probably gone up 10 to 15,000 because it's a thoroughbred pedigree sports car, 3.8 twin turbo, 530 horsepower, ceramics. Nice big engine, flat 6, lovely sound, good fuel economy. Does the sports bit much better than this. I lost this on a bend the other day. I flicked it into 2-wheel drive just to show a mate that it could be a bit leery, and it just went, and I had no warning through the steering wheel whatsoever. And this is what the Porsche 991 drivers do not like. This is what the purists can't handle. I can't handle it. Not that I class myself as an absolute purist, bit of a traitor with cars. I go through stages of loving a brand and hating a brand, but the 991 start-stop technology on your Porsche. Sorry. So you get to the traffic lights and you're sitting there listening to the gurgle. The lights are taking a little bit longer than you want to change, so you just give it that little flick with your right foot. That noise, comes through your ears. It's like music. It's like listening to the best classical music, or whatever music takes your fancy. Sitting there on stop because you want to save 1 pence worth of petrol and get through 5 starter motors during the car's life. That does nothing for me, absolutely nothing at all. And I think Porsche are going to struggle, and Brexit's going to do nothing for us Brits wanting to drive these cars, because these cars are manufactured in Europe, and therefore they will still be governed by European legislation. So getting into the interior, which is where anyone driving this car is going to spend most of their time, you can see as you get in, you've got the M5 door sills which light up at night. It's a really nice touch. You've got the carbon fibre on the door cards, you've got the leather and the nice stitching here, you've got the standard controls, you've got the two options for the memory seats there, you've got your electric windows, you can put your mirrors in here, you can adjust your mirrors, all the good old standard stuff. Then when you move down to the actual seat controls itself, we can control the leg supports, which I really like, standard stuff, moving the seat backwards and forwards, up and down. Got the rake of the seat, but what's really nice is there's also the comfort option here, where you can move the rake halfway up. You've got lumbar support, and you've got a little button here where you can make the sides of the seats come in and out, so when you're driving a bit more briskly, you've got more support. Sitting in the cabin itself, shut the door, you can see BMW have given it a really nice dashboard, and you've got the M5 logo there, and we can see that at the moment the car's currently in efficient for throttle response, it's in comfort for the suspension, and it's in comfort for the steering wheel, which means the steering wheel's nice and light when you're driving it. Little touches that make this car extra special, the seat belts have got the M colours on them, which is really nice. Got this Alcantara roof, which is just absolutely lovely to the touch, and you can see that the back of the car is really nice and spacious as well. BMW are really good at making comfortable seats, and the seats in this car are up there with the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in whilst driving any car I've ever driven or owned. Getting to the gear selector, which looks something more out of a jet plane. On the top here you've got control over the sensitivity of the gear change. So if we wanted the gears to change quicker, we push this button here, we get these three dashes up on the dashboard itself, and the car would hold the gears a lot longer. Here we can change the throttle response, we can change the suspension, and we can change how stiff the steering wheel is. We've got another button here where we can control the exhaust, and we can make it sound sportier and gurglier when you take your foot off the accelerator, and a little bit more throaty when accelerating through the bends. Let's just start the car. Sounds really nice. The car's showing due a service in 800 miles. The car itself has done 465 miles. I've done about 220 of those. The M series BMWs always have a service around about the 1200 mark. They open the car up a little bit more. Because of the performance of this vehicle, it needs to go back to the days of having that sort of 1200 mile running service. I'll just show you how the gear selector actually works, because when I first got in the car I struggled for a couple of minutes, and Luke had left it and I was just like, so how do we get it off the drive? Works differently to normal. Your park is down here, and to put it in reverse you shift it to the left and push up, and to put it into drive bring it over to the right. If I wanted it into manual, if I bring it over to the right again, we're now in manual, and here you can see the gear change responses as I push the button on top of the lever. And again, if I change the throttle response, you will see, there we go, throttle response Sport or Sport Plus, suspension Sport, Sport Plus, steering wheel Sport, Sport Plus. Now we've got a setup button here. Now if you go into setup, This is a really nice feature that was also on the previous model. You can go in and configure these two buttons that you've got on the steering wheel. We've got two buttons here, one's called M1 and one's called M2. So if we say at the press of M1 we want to switch off the traction control, we want to be in two-wheel drive, we want engine throttle response to be Sports Plus, we want the chassis to stiffen up Sports Plus, we want the steering to be Sports Plus, we want the transmission to go down as low as first, we want the heads-up display on standard view, or maybe we want to change it to M view, which is where it will give us a rev counter as well. We can do that and we can save all that, and then when we're in the car, switch the car on. Ooh. If we go and press M1, press it again, you can see now I've told it to go two-wheel drive on Sports Plus across the lot. If we press M2, I've done the same but with four-wheel drive. So there's a lot of control over how this car responds when you drive it. And here's the powerhouse of the M5. Not a lot of room for anything else under that bonnet. So that's the BMW M5, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks once again to Sitner for lending me this vehicle over the bank holiday.